DroneTalks is an online platform to spread ideas and to educate in the drone ecosystem. At DroneTalks, we discuss technology, regulatory, business and ecosystem topics openly with industry leaders to enable and foster innovation for a better future.
Hi everyone, I'm Esther Kovac, founder and CEO of DroneTalks. And today I am talking with Philip Butterworth-Hayes, CEO and founder of Unmannedairspace and Armored Air Mobility online magazines. Hi Philip.
Hi Esther.
Thanks you for joining us. So my first question is that your background is really impressive in journalism. Why drones?
Basically, I started as a reporter out in the Middle East, in Africa, a long time ago now, and then got into aviation via a guy called Bob Geldof, who wanted some help to deliver aid to Ethiopia and Sudan, where I'd been working. So I helped that, and from that, I just fell in love with aviation. I realized how it could connect the world so easily and quickly, and that was it. So that was sort of 30, 40 years ago. Since then, I've just been writing about it and publishing and reporting on it, and a bit of consultancy too. So that was my love. And there was something, I've really come to this from air traffic control and air traffic management. And it's kind of like one of the great hidden secrets of the world, I think, air traffic management, because there's just so much which is interesting, exciting and important about it, and it never gets properly reported. So it's been a passion of mine, and it's August 2017 when we started to first write about drones and drone traffic management, because this was just a step into the beyond. And air traffic management is a very conservative, it's exciting, but a very conservative industry. And suddenly we're in this new world, and I thought, well, we've got to do something about this and just focus on this for a while. So that's why we started it.
That's great. So I think you do it now. You're writing these two magazines in 3 years, as I did understand well, if I did understand well. So I was just wondering, what do you see? What's changed in 3 years? I think you are in the first line regarding news, and you receive this huge data from everywhere and you report back. So what's changed in 3 years?
Well, we're a little different from other sort of drone websites in that we don't focus on the industry. We're really writing for governments and air navigation service providers and people who are trying to set up drone ecosystems. So, I mean, I don't know that much about drones, but I know a little bit about air traffic management and the kind of, the standards, the regulatory side, the kind of things that people have to do to put something into an airspace. And that's what's really interesting to me, because this is so different from what's gone before. And this is an industry, as I said, which just have to say, well, yeah, we'd like to do it, but we can't do it at the moment. But now they have to do something about it. So it's how the culture of entrepreneurial automated drones hits the firewall of regulators and people who like to say no. And it's that clash which is really interesting. And you can see these two sides now have slowly come together and actually realize they can work together. And this is actually quite a big change, because 3 years ago, there was so much uncertainty about the technology, what the technology could do, what the role of the regulators could do. That has changed, and there's this. I think there is this imperative now that they both sides recognize they need each other. It's kind of a bit nebulous, but there is a cultural change. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that's happened in the last 3 years.
I love that word, cultural change, because I do believe we should change our culture before we are able to innovate, and think differently. So what's next? What do you think? What's gonna happen in short term? If I may ask your opinion.
No, well, actually, I think the big goal, the near-term goal, is for 2 or 3 years' time, when we have different drones working in the same airspace for commercially successful companies, flying BVLOS, flying automated procedures. And I think that is the real goal that everybody in the industry wants to see happen. And that, I think, is probably about 2 or 3 years away. Being optimistic, but it is possible, and people are now starting to talk about it in those sort of realistic terms. We'll have the standards, we should have the standards in place, we'll have the regulations in place, we'll have the technology in place. There's 2 or 3 things we're not quite sure about, but that, I think, is the next big milestone. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, the trouble is everything's 2 or 3 years away, but I think this time there is a real opportunity for that to happen. And it's not going to happen in the way that I think a lot of people have a high level view of it happening. It's going to have people just doing stuff, and it's working, and it starts to work, and people start to feel comfortable. And it's this level of comfort that's important, I think.
So it will happen in 2-3 years, and I agree that will be the next step. But what should happen for that? What do you think? Because, we have the air traffic currently in use, and, to integrate these drones in demand, in scale, I think these 2 systems should communicate. So what's your view on that?
I think they're completely different. So UTM and ATM are entirely different. And I think this is the first realization that if you're a UTM service provider, you can't make money out of simply tracking drones and reporting on drones. That's not what's going to happen. If you're an ANSP, it's an entirely different thing. And although we're all heading for the same future, which is a digital airspace, where you have a CNSM ATM infrastructure, which is different, provided by another service provider, we're all heading in the same direction. We're actually starting from very different places. And if you try and sort of integrate a UTM system into an ATM system, then you're in all sorts of problems. Because the last thing a controller wants to do is to have a whole lot of sort of other people flying into his or her airspace, but you know nothing at all about them, what the drones can do, who the pilots are, whether they speak aviation. So there is this kind of dichotomy. They have to be integrated somehow, but that integration could just be a panel in a control center somewhere, which only lights up when something starts to go wrong or when there's a drone coming in there into a controlled airspace. Perhaps that's what we talk about. That's what we really mean by integration. And I know a lot of controllers I've spoken to say, look, the last thing that we want is to control drones. That's not what we're here for. We don't want that responsibility. So this word integration is an odd one, really. It basically means that these 2 parallel systems can somehow work together side by side. But there are huge questions to this, and this is why it's great to be a journalist. I don't have to sort of answer any of these questions. I just have to ask them. Where do you put counter UAS in all this? Where do you put the ability to track a rogue drone, identify it, then hand that over to somebody who's responsible for mitigating that? Massive issue. Some people think it should be integrated. Some people think it shouldn't be integrated. So we've got that to look at. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that we're facing. One of the things that's missing, and there's an opportunity here which nobody has actually seen, I don't think, and that's the political element of drones and UTM. For the first time, as an industry, we can go to the Green Party and just say, look, here we have a scalable, safe, clean technology which can do all sorts of really wonderful things, and it's aviation, and it's something which you as a political party should embrace. And I haven't seen that happening. I haven't seen the political support for these types of industries, whether it's medical transport or eventually passenger transport or cargo transport. Haven't seen that political element take place here. I haven't seen any drone industries going to the major political parties and saying, can you support this, please? Because we will need money. At some stage, we will need governments to put money into this. Even if it's just to get aircraft across the certification line. And for that, we could do with a lot of input. And why not? And there's absolutely no reason why any politician from any political party shouldn't say this is something which we want to get on the bandwagon too with. So that I think is missing. I think that's an opportunity for the industry to really do something in the near future.
I think that's a call for action.
Yeah, it's a call for action. Yeah.
came a long way in a few years. You know, it's a rapidly evolving industry. So what's your forecast for timeline? What do you think when this will happen?
There's a difference between being able to do the research and be confident in technology and actually seeing it happen. And I think this is going to be down to 3 or 4 really pioneering regulators and drone operating companies. And you know, you look at the world and you see places like Switzerland and Poland who are really pushing the boundaries and really doing some very, very creative stuff there. So realistically, I think 3 years we should do it. I think within 3 years, there should be an airspace, several airspaces cropping up, these little pockets all around the world, which will then develop, where you have multiple drones operating with different operating companies in the same airspace, being able to see each other, detect and avoid, increasingly autonomous. Yeah, I can see that happening. And, you know, I mean, ideally, it would be happening in places like ports and airports, where you can have a very, very clear segregated airspace area. But that doesn't seem to be happening. The weird thing is when you talk to we talk to airports and ports about it, when you're going to get speaking to a couple in Europe, and they're saying, well, this is not happening for 10 years. And that's kind of weird. You think, well, why 10 years? This should be happening in 3 years maximum. So perhaps there are issues I don't know about, privacy issues or security issues, but I think 3 years. 3 years for drone delivery.
Sounds great and really promising, Philip. Thank you for the interview. It's always nice chatting with you.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting.